Greg Rutherford is here, and it is his first time at the Jiu Jitsu show. Former Team GB long jumper, 2012 gold medalist. You're loving it.
I am, absolutely, yeah. It's a completely different world to anything I ever had to do. Running a straight line and jumping into a sandpit is far easier than being launched around, hearing the slaps on the mats and everything else. It's yeah, very, very different, but incredible to see, really is.
We were talking just a moment ago, in another lifetime, maybe?
I think everybody likes to think that they would be able to do something like this, but I think it's very, very different when you're then facing off to another human who is essentially trying to get you out of the way, get you potentially, well, not hurt, but at least stop you from being able to fight back. But you know what? No, there's something about it that really does intrigue me, and I would be, you know, I might try something. There's been a gentleman from a gym in Newport Pagnell who's been saying to me, I've now got to come down and give it a go. So maybe I'll dabble once.
All right, we got the evidence right here. He's a Milton Keynes local. Next stop, white belt. Curious about your impressions of this tournament, but before we get to that, you are retired now.
I am, yes.
And current ventures in front of you?
Yeah, plenty going on. So I predominantly now work for Discovery Eurosport, sort of talking about Olympic sports, which I thoroughly enjoy. It's far easier talking about them than it is actually participating in them. And it's a lot nicer being on the other side of the camera rather than having to, especially when it's gone wrong, having to have that conversation. So I enjoy all of that. I just ventured into sort of the sport and fitness tech world as well. I've got a business going on there. So lots going on away from sport as well, which I absolutely love. And I have 3 young children. So now a lot of my energy goes into that. I coach my son's football team. He goes to karate with Mahmood, who is one of the guys who has created this event. So it's a completely different world now, but it's far more fun, as I say, less impactful on the body.
Busier than before?
Well, far more. Well, the funny thing is as well, when you retire from sport, you go from something which is relatively regimented. I knew what time I had to be at the track, what I'd be doing most days, because everything would be set and planned. Now it's very much here, there, and everywhere. But that's also interesting and fun from a different point of view.
All right, now, getting to the jiu-jitsu today, you've seen it up close and personal. We actually saw you here quite a while ago with the family, and you haven't left. What's kept you here?
Well, it's just an amazing spectacle of the human body and human physical attack, really. That's the one thing it is. Watching 2 people go at each other to actually, I don't know, it's trying to figure it out. For me, I'm a huge sports fan, right? So I love all sports. I love learning about all different sports as well. And I've been lucky enough to dabble in so many sports over the years. But nothing ever like this. And seeing how technical and how much thinking has to go into everything. I think most people that watch from the outside, you just think, oh, it's just brute strength. You get in there, lob somebody around, hopefully you win. There's a lot more to it. And it's incredible watching that thinking game unfold. And you can see as well, coaches shouting different commands and sort of little helpers. And you'll literally see the athletes looking at them while they're in some form of chokehold to try and get out of that. That's something that's so alien to me, but incredible to see. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And as I say, I've had my oldest son here with me all day as well. The others disappeared off for a bit. And he's been enthralled by it as well. And that's a brilliant thing.
Yeah. It's been often described, you know, and you see these moments where they are defending an oncoming potential end of a match, right? Kinetic chess. And it's that strategic decision-making under such pressure that you see. You can feel the temperature of it, can't you, almost?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, just little things. You'll see something that looks in there in some form of hold that they have no hope for. And the coach will shout something like just hips, just a cue that, I mean, there'll be little cues that my coaches would give me in order to help me like, in between jumps, but they're literally in position. They do a thing, and then all of a sudden I go, how on earth have they got out of that? And they're now on the attack end. Or it's incredible seeing. It's a game of chess. Like that is the whole thing. And you can clearly see as well, first of all, that level of respect, which I love about sports like this. It's very different, I think, to some of the real mainstream sports, if you like, where I think respect often goes out the window, which is really unfortunate. And especially when children are watching that, I don't think that's really, really appropriate, to be honest. But you come here, everybody's hugely respectful. I've been talking to some of the fighters as well, and they're sort of going, well, everybody shakes hands, everybody fist bumps afterwards, they thank each other. I saw a guy who I've met in Waitrose a few times in Milton Keynes, and I was like, really good to see you, mate, in a sling. He'd had his shoulder dislocated, and he went, yeah, you know, I thanked him afterwards as well. He's like, I'm not entirely sure why I thanked him, but there is that respect level. A man has literally just had his arm pulled out of his socket, and he's thanking the other chap that's done that to him.
We saw it over there by the podium with the medals being distributed, and it was a moment where the guy who had won 3rd place was speaking to the guy that he knocked out off the podium, right, at 4th. And I actually interviewed him afterwards and said, you know, I think I'm going to train with this guy someday. We'd never met before. We just competed. He missed out on the podium. And I can't wait to actually maybe link up with him at a seminar or somewhere else, gym hopping down the road. And it's that kind of vibe that's infectious, I think, really about jiu-jitsu.
It is different, isn't it? And it's fascinating that you can have two people going up against each other who are then very friendly about. I think we often see things like boxing. There's obviously an awful lot of trash talking that goes into the build up to a fight. Sometimes that can spill over past it and whatever else. Weigh-ins can be quite. And I know some of that's pantomime. They're sort of creating it just to get people watching. Yeah. But it just feels very different here. The respect levels are huge, and it's this excitement to go in there and take on your opponent, but equally the understanding afterwards of win, lose, whatever. You both know you've tried your hardest, and they say that respect is something that's completely undervalued in certain sports, but here it's in abundance, and that's a great thing to see.
Yeah, it's at the apex, because a lot of coaches have talked about it, many of them actually with predominantly youth teams here today. Some of them very veteran competitors formerly themselves, and mostly pushing the youth forward, and that's at the apex of what they want to teach. What's interesting as well is the frequency of competition. On the topic of boxing, a lot of these guys don't want to ever fight each other. We mentioned it in some of the other previous conversations too. I don't want to repeat it, but the frequency of maybe in sport jiu-jitsu fighting somebody on a circuit 8-10 times in your career is not an uncommon scenario. And it's that frequency of kind of getting into the mix that I think is so humbling and such a learning experience. And you see that. You see that in droves here.
Absolutely. And again, that's something that's going to develop that camaraderie between competitors. And again, I can only ever talk from my world. And we had a very similar situation where you'd be bouncing around 10, 15 competitions at a time. And often it's against the same people. And bizarrely, some of my closest friends within the world of track and field were the guys that I was jumping against. Because the difference, I guess, between what I was doing and what these guys do, I didn't have to fight these guys. I literally had to run down and say and jump into a sandpit. So you could be relatively friendly with them, which is great. Of course, you want to beat them. And that's the big thing. You've got to be able to switch it on and switch it off. And again, you always think within the world of what you would see as effectively fighting, you think that's going to be a really difficult thing to do. But instantly, people go from throwing somebody over their shoulder and dislocating it to shaking hands. And that, as I say, especially for the youngsters, and my 8-year-old who's been here, who's just been again, mesmerised watching a lot of it, that's what I like to see. And as I say, with Mahmood, again, one of the guys who's helped create UMAC here, they go to karate together, and it's all about respect. It's all about understanding that when a coach is talking, you stop, you pay attention, you listen, and you can see it here as well. I think sports like this are probably hugely undervalued of how useful they can be for just teaching children respect from the get-go and actually their understanding of their body. I think these have a massive place in helping children develop. Yeah,
I totally agree. Is there anything else that you find similar to your career and your experiences as a professional athlete and even an amateur athlete from a young age?
Yeah, you know, I think, as I just touched on the camaraderie side of things, I think that's definitely something that you can see in sports like this, as I say. Again, people are coming together and they are getting friendly, which is a great thing. Now, from the point of view of the training and everything else, it depends on who you're with and whatever else. But there are these situations, I say, where respect, focus, and drive are so important. To make it in any form of sport, you have to have that. What's incredible, as I say, in these sports is that's harnessed from a very young age. I think in often sports, kids just sort of have a bit of a free-for-all, and then they go for it, and then eventually the odd one will come through. Yeah. In these sports, from the get-go, they get that, and I think that can only help. And again, it helps not just for these sports. If these kids go on to try others, they're already going to have that focus and help, and that's something that I probably saw at the older age and the higher level within athletics, but it's definitely something that I think is hugely useful, especially for kids, again, to take on.
Because that excellence tends to translate, doesn't it? And not only into other sport endeavors or other hobbies, but also school.
Yeah, hugely.
And even friendships and stuff. And I think that martial arts is something very unique where it is technically so difficult. And you see the level of mastery at 22 kilos. Some of these weight divisions are really rather low, right? Yeah. And age-wise rather low. And it's inspirational for sure. I'm curious, are you a fan of other martial arts?
Do you know what? It's still a relatively new world for me. I watch it if it's on TV, a mixture of all different things that might be on. It's something that I tune in and out of. And actually, it's taken more my son to show an interest for me to then go, okay, I'm going to spend a bit more time. Hence why I'm here today to sort of watch and to learn and get involved. And look, as I've sort of touched on, maybe I'll try it at some point, I don't know. But I think you do need to see it firsthand. I think it's a great thing to do. And there'll be events like this all over the country, all over the world, where people can actually just go in and have a watch. And I would say to anybody, if you ever see it going on, ever see anything advertised, definitely go and check it out if you've never been involved with it before, because it really is a massive eye-opener. And again, there's a lot of really nice people here. That's the crazy thing.
Right?
You go into something that's martial arts and you're going, oh, it's really nice here, which is again, from the outside looking in, you often think, oh, maybe not. Like, it's going to be a lot of like testosterone, people throwing each other around, whatever else. But it's not. It's a really nice family environment, to be totally honest. And you're seeing kids running around, having a good time, families here as well. And that's a great thing. So this is, for me, this is me learning now. And I think this is just going to lead on to more events and becoming a bigger fan, I think.
Greg Rutherford, future charity jiu-jitsu match, and it's happening right here, maybe in Milton Keynes on UMAC. I'm curious, for people watching who may see this interview, because they'll be very interested in your views and impressions early of the sport, any advice for young sports people out there?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing, more than anything, especially if you're a youngster involved in whatever sport it is, you have to enjoy it. And this is probably one of the most undervalued things. I see a lot of people, kids being forced into certain things, shouted at constantly and not enjoying themselves. I see it through football that I'm still involved with now, I saw it through athletics when I was doing it. You have to enjoy what you're doing and surround yourself with the right people that will enjoy it with you. And look, if this path is whatever sport it is, if the path is what you're taking, the people that you surround yourself with are some of the most important people that you can ever have in your life, because what you need to do is find the people that will enrich and enhance you as the individual, and they want the best for you. Every time they step into a room, they're wanting you to do well. Once you surround yourself with people like that and you can enjoy it, I'm telling you now, that's the path to go on and have success in it. Get rid of anybody in your life that drains it. That's the big thing. And in sport, it has to be that cutthroat. I had to remove myself from genuine friendship groups that I had because it was not leading me down the right path. And it worked out. People that enrich your life and enjoy the sport, that's the best way to succeed.
Sage advice there from Mr. Rutherford. I'm Chris. We can't wait to have you back. Thanks for your time, okay?
Thank you ever so much. Thanks for having me.
All right.